Hey, welcome back to Spector Creative. And the big thing I like to do here is clear up misconceptions about the toy industry from working in it, but also being a fan and hearing about all the misconceptions online. And because there are people who, well, sometimes loud voices can, create things that are just incorrect. And I like to try to fix that. So I want to talk again about how toys make a set required amount of money for a company. So a toy that's aimed at children, like this Ray Galaxy of Adventure figure for 2000, 19's movie, and the sail barge. And I'm not picking on Ray as a character. I chose this toy because I wanted to represent a toy that sold at mass and is designed specifically for kids. I, Choosing a Ray toy, there's plenty to choose from. Has nothing to do with the character, okay? So let's get that out of the way. I'm just choosing a lead character in a movie line. All right, so mass kids toy versus collector toy. Yes, they both make money. They don't make a ridiculous coffee table amount of money for a company, but they both make the same required amount of money. And that's because, well, let's just take a dollar, right? Easy to divide into four quatniks. So if you have to make four quatniks for the company, that's because three of these quatniks are going to wind up going into the cost to get it into the retailer, the cost to, pass along to the consumer, and in the end, you wind up only having one quartnik. All right, quarter. You only have one of those to deal with in terms of development dollars. All right. So the thing is, every toy is part of this program. They all have to generate the same 25% margin at retail. And I'm using a quarter and 25% to simplify it. So every toy out there, whether it's the biggest toy or the smallest. Now, there are some toys that can do this by volume, and that's what happens at the retail aisle. Those Ray figures are sold, and they're sold by the hundreds of thousands. Anything that's a large line tied directly to a movie is expected to do this. It's done not through one individual purchase, but by many, many, many. On the other hand, you can also make this margin in price. You would do this when you're only selling a very small number of units, and that's exactly what the sail barge and other Haslab items are. They're items, but they're produced very, very tiny, especially compared to, again, the hundreds of thousands of units done at a mass retail launch for a movie in a movie year. So neither one of these are raking in cash. They're making the required amount, but it's the same required amount. And that has kind of been part of the argument people have made against whether or not these, big online projects, whether they're from Hasbro or Mattel or whoever, are, we're just feeding the company all this profit. But the thing is, these projects take way more work, but they deliver the same amount of money for the company. And that's kind of why I guess I see them as a very positive thing, because the teams that are working on this have to do a lot more work than a team that does something for retail. All of the prelim work and showing how many figures fit on the sail barge, all that stuff they did, showing early 3D renderings and models. Well, I mean, while it's not the most expensive thing in the world, it takes a lot of human power, a lot of time, a lot of bandwidth, as people in offices like to call it. So the extra amount isn't necessarily money that the company's getting, it's the people that work on these. And even when the item doesn't go forward, like the Rancor, it still required all of that massive amount of human power. It's not cost to the company. I mean, yeah, there's some cost to painting models, but they cut it off right before tooling, which is the giant anchor of cost, quite literally. That's the $100,000 you're going to spend on the mold. I mean, gosh knows what the Rancor or the Sail Barge or Galactus cost. And again, in addition, we're talking all that PR work that has to be done. And for the most part, that's just human hours. And a team, I know I'm sure in the sail barge team, I don't even know them. I'm just using them as an example, much as I'm using Ray as an example, just to contrast the difference between an item designed for fans and one at mass retail. That one, they're making the same amount of money because that's the requirement for the company. They just do it in a different way, either through volume at a retail item or through a tiny amount and a higher price online. And obviously, when you're dealing with a retail line, you're dealing with a templated package. And that, I know, it took me a long time to get to the point of what I'm trying to get to today, although I made a few points along the way. But that's the important part, because that's where so much more of the work comes from. With a retail line, you design one package and it's used by multiple SKUs throughout the year. It's a one-time deal. I mean, yes, you've got to update it with graphics, but the actual structure gets designed once. And that's kind of the thing a lot of people don't talk about. And the work that just sort of gets swept under the, well, proverbial table, or I guess under the bed in the toy industry. I'm making it a G.I. Joe flag joke there with under the bed. That's where it was supposed to be stored. Never mind, going in a bad direction here. The point is, these are templated packages, and relatively easy to make, but they're still custom. Now, every package is a custom-made package in the toy industry. So you could really look at a mass retail item and an item sold online to collectors as two paths that actually merge. They both are part of Camp Quarter, where they have to deliver a 25% margin to the company for every dollar spent, but they require way more work, if you will, on the back end. And that's what makes these items special. And again, I'm using the sail barge as an example, and because it can hold an immense amount of sushi. These items truly are made for fans and people working really hard. And the person that no one ever talks about is the packaging engineer. And that's because usually the packaging engineer makes one item, again, and it gets templated for the whole rest of the year. When you're doing a one-off item that's this big and complicated, first off, if you're not familiar, what a packaging engineer does is designs that structure without all the graphics, the lovely, beautiful color graphics on it that the graphic designer will add to this. And having a toy nest properly, all the parts be able to be contained within the master carton and the outer box, it's not an easy thing to do. And packaging designers are basically, if you're employed in the toy industry, you're employed for life. No one ever wants a package designer to leave. All right, so you're saying, well, wait a minute. The sail barge was just a giant square box. How hard is that to make? It doesn't even have to have a neat structure for retail. Well, yes, that's true. You're right. On the outside, it just has to be a giant square box, probably the easiest package to design. But where the packaging engineer's brilliance comes in, and again, I don't know who the packaging engineer was for this. I'm totally just using as an example. All right, besides the fact that it was a big enough box to fit a human being inside, it is what is held inside and how much. Now, I didn't get a sail barge. Go check out, like, Entertainment Earth did an unboxing video. There are actually instructions on how to unbox it inside. It's that complicated because it's a combination of styrofoam insets, of straps, and all of these adjacent pieces that need to be connected all have to be nested inside what you would literally call folded cardboard. And it's perfectly aligned, tabbed, and inserted. Take a look as a low cost or easy example, the new closed box Marvel Legends. Pull one out. Look at the way the cardboard has to be intricately folded in so many places with tabs, with slots. Think of this now on the level of the sail barge and how much of this had to be done for every one of those baggies of parts that it came with. That's a huge amount of work. That's like 6 months worth of work into one SKU. The packaging engineer on any of these giant projects, Eternia, the WWE ring, the Sentinel, the Galactus, I'm trying to, these are clearly things that these companies are doing and investing on the back end a huge amount of love and care. And the packaging engineer on these, the amount of unique pieces that have to go into a one-off, one-time use package is enormous. That's the person who should get the coffee table full of money. Well, I'm sure they are paid well. The point being is these are clearly projects done for people who love the fans, and getting someone to do 6 months worth of work for one, that would normally cover hundreds of different SKUs, and they're putting it into one single box, one package. That is a lot of love. And that's just one example of how much love goes into these toys at toy companies. Not shilling, guys, just, telling from the experience. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please do like, share, and follow. Or, well, share really is the biggest one. If you can reposting it, it's the best way to support this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the comments and in the next one.